The sun shimmered over the kingdom of Red Sun like a crown of fire. Its coastal cliffs stood proudly against the whispering tides, their jagged edges softened only by the golden sands that curved around them like a mother's arms. In the heart of this kingdom, within high rose-stone walls of the Red Sun Castle, lived a young girl with scarlet-colored eyes that gleamed like the rarest rubies. Princess Scarlette Belle had never quite fit the mold of a typical royal child. She was radiant and regal, yes, but endlessly curious. The type to slip out from under her governess's watch just to watch ants march in a line or feel the tide foam between her toes. One warm spring morning, while the court busied itself with diplomatic visits, 6-year-old Scarlette escaped through a hidden corridor of the palace grounds, a tunnel her older cousin had once shown her, long forgotten by the guards. At the end of it lay a secluded beach, untouched, hidden from the world, encased by rocky cliffs and a curtain of sea grapes. The air smelled of salt and wildflowers, and the waves sang secrets to the sand. It was here she first saw him, a boy about her age, sitting alone on a smooth boulder with the sea lapping at his sides. His long brown hair clung to his cheeks like wet silk, and his black eyes were wide and full of wonder. But it was his tail that made her freeze. Sleek, obsidian black with hints of shimmer, it swayed like a ribbon in water. They both stared. Scarlette tilted her head. "Are you a merman?" Gabriel blinked. "You're not afraid?" "No," she said, stepping closer, her bare feet silent in the sand. "Are you?" He smiled, his sharp little teeth flashing. "No." From that moment, the beach became their shared world. They met again the next day, and the day after. At first, they spoke little, preferring to build towers of sand or throw pebbles into tidipools. Over time, they traded trinkets. She gave him a silver pin shaped like a falcon, and he brought her a pearl that glowed pink in the sunlight. Gabriel told her about the Coral Rose Kingdom deep beneath the sea, where jellyfish lanterns lit their domes and whale songs echoed through halls of coral glass. Scarlette told him about the towering libraries in Red Sun and how her tiara hurt her head, but she wore it anyway so her tutors would stop scolding her. They were two worlds in one moment. Childhood magic, untouched by politics, hatred, or war. One morning, Scarlette brought a small book of fairy tales. She opened it in her lap, and Gabriel rested nearby in the shallow surf, listening with wide eyes. Her voice was soft but full of life as she read about princesses, dragons, and star-crossed love. When the sun dipped low and the castle bell tolled in the distance, Gabriel looked at her. "Do you think your people and mine could ever be friends?" He paused. "I don't know. But I want us to be." He grinned, fanning his tail. "Then maybe we'll be the first." They sealed the promise with a pinky touch, her finger warm, his cool from the sea. Years passed like the ebb and flow of the tide. From age 6 to 10, Scarlette and Gabriel's friendship deepened into something more delicate, more potent, though they didn't quite have the words for it. The beach was their sanctuary, a kingdom of their own where titles meant nothing, and dreams weren't bound by land or sea. At 10, on a cool autumn evening, Scarlette brought a flower crown she had woven herself, delicate bluebells and sea lilies strung together with reeds. She placed it on Gabriel's head, laughing when a small crab crawled from the crown and pinched him on the ear. He yelped, she giggled, and then they just sat, his fingers brushing hers on the rock where they always met. "I feel something strange," Gabriel confessed, eyes on the horizon. "What kind of strange?" Scarlette asked, her voice soft, a blush blooming on her pale cheeks. "Like, when I look at you my heart swims faster. And when I'm away I ache. Is that strange?" Scarlette looked down. "I feel it too." And just like that, a love was born. Innocent, unspoken, but deeper than most adults could understand. A love shaped not by politics or power, but by playfulness, shared secrets, and two souls who saw each other for who they were, not what they represented. But secrets have a way of surfacing, especially in a palace where whispers echo louder than footsteps. Karth Bell, Scarlette's younger brother, was only 9 when he noticed his sister sneaking out more often. Always to the southern edge of the gardens. Always returning with damp skirts and a smile she tried to hide. Karth was smart, ambitious, and curious. He had always adored his sister, even though he hated being second in line. He had dreamed of crowns since he could speak. Still, nothing compared to how he looked up to her. So one late afternoon he followed her. He crawled through the same forgotten tunnel she used. Thorns scratched his arms, and the salty air tickled his nose as he approached the hidden beach. And what he saw shocked him to his very core. There was Scarlette, sitting beside a merman. They were laughing, brushing each other's hands, and then Gabriel placed a delicate shell necklace around her neck. It glimmered like the sea itself. Karth gasped aloud. Scarlette spun around. Karth! He stumbled from behind a dune, sand clinging to his royal tunic. What is this? That's a... He's a Scarlette, are you mad? Gabriel tensed, tail dipping defensively into the water. Scarlette ran to Karth and dropped to her knees. Please, Karth, don't tell father. Please just listen, Gabriel's not dangerous. He's kind and funny and gentle and... You're a princess. He's a merfolk. Karth's voice trembled. Father says they're tricksters, traitors to the land. Scarlette's face fell. But father is wrong. Gabriel stepped forward, his voice even. I would never hurt her. I only ever wanted to know her world. To be her friend. And now, more. The honesty in his voice startled Karth. He looked from Gabriel to his sister, the only person who'd ever believed in him. The only one who treated him not like a child, but like someone important. He looked down. Does he make you happy? He asked. Scarlette nodded, eyes glistening. More than anything. Long pause. Karth groaned, rubbing his temple. Fine. I won't say anything. But you owe me. Someday when I ask for a favor, you can't say no. Scarlette smiled wide and pulled him into a hug. Deal. That day, the bond between siblings became stronger, and Gabriel's trust in Karth began. But beneath it all, unknown to them, the waves carried whispers. And not every whisper would stay beneath the tide forever. Time, like waves, did not slow for love. By the age of 18, Princess Scarlette Belle of Red Sun had blossomed into a vision of radiant strength and unshakable grace. Her scarlet-colored eyes, named by prophecy and feared by politicians, were now sharper, wiser. She wore her tiara with a quiet burden, not pride. And though the palace held banquets, balls, and parades in her honor, her heart remained anchored to a certain hidden beach and the boy with black eyes and a tail of midnight shimmer. That boy, now a prince in full bloom, had also grown. Gabriel Caspian was no longer the wide-eyed child of wonder. The youngest of the Coral Rose heirs, he had mastered the tide's currents, commanded the silver trident of the deep, and earned his place beside warriors twice his age. But his heart remained loyal to one name, Scarlette. And soon, the pressure of royalty closed in on both their worlds. From the snowy northern isles came noblemen with gifts of rare stones and falcons trained to sing. From the desert courts rode swift-tongued princes with scrolls of treaties and promises of power. All arrived seeking one prize, Scarlette's hand. In the halls of Coral Rose, equally grand gestures flooded the ocean throne. Mermaid princesses twirled through coral tunnels, sang hauntingly sweet hymns, and tried to charm Gabriel with tales of ancient treasure. Each one offered elegance, alliances, and favor, but none could touch the place Scarlette held in his heart. Both monarchies grew uneasy. King Aether of Red Sun grew restless, his suspicion curdling into quiet fury. Queen Lily, more observant than she let on, noticed the constant rejection of suitors, the distracted gaze of her daughter, the way she clutched a necklace made of ocean shell when she thought no one noticed. At sea, Queen Rayleigh, wise and haunting in her beauty, watched her youngest son swim aimlessly after diplomatic events, retreating too often to the surface. King Balthazar spoke little, but his trident struck deeper into the coral throne with each passing day. Gabriel and Scarlette, hearts full yet burdened, knew they could not stay hidden forever. One night, under a waxing moon, they met on the familiar beach. The waves whispered softly around them. Gabriel pulled her close and rested his forehead on hers. "We can't keep hiding, Scarlette," he said, voice low but steady. "I'll face whatever comes. For you." Scarlette's voice trembled. "My father, he won't just disapprove. He'll see it as war. He'll see you as an insult." "I know." Gabriel took her hands. "But I will never stop loving you. We were children when we met. We've grown, but that love, it's never left." She nodded slowly, blinking back tears. "Then we tell them. Together." But someone already knew. In the shadows of a dune, a royal falcon sat perched, trained to observe and return. It belonged to King Aether. And it had seen enough. Back in the palace, Karth noticed the subtle shifts in their father's tone. How his fingers clenched during council meetings. How he dismissed merfolk ambassadors with cold indifference. Karth's gut churned. Then, one morning before the royal council, Scarlette was summoned to the throne room. She arrived in full royal attire, expecting another debate about suitors. Instead, her father held out the shell necklace Gabriel had given her years ago. Her breath stopped. "Tell me," King Aether's voice was like iron wrapped in silk. "Who gave you this?" Scarlette stood frozen, the court watching. Karth stepped forward. "Father." But Aether silenced him with a glare. Scarlette raised her chin and said, "The one I love." Aether's smile was thin. "Then perhaps it's time we discuss the consequences of loving an enemy." The room went still. The throne room of Red Sun was eerily quiet after Scarlette's confession. King Aether's fingers curled slowly around the shell necklace like a viper tightening its coil. His face, carved with years of command and bitterness, betrayed no emotion until he spoke. "A merman." The words spilled from his lips like venom. Karth stepped forward again, this time more boldly. "Father, please. Scarlette has done nothing wrong." But Aether's glare cut through him like steel. "Silence, boy. I should have known your loyalty was as thin as your crownless brow." Scarlette's heart stung. "Don't speak to him like that." But Aether rose to his feet with a thunderous crash, his royal red cloak flaring behind him. "You have humiliated this throne, Scarlet Belle. Defied the laws of nature, of royalty, and of legacy." "My heart is not a law to be obeyed," she said, stepping forward with steady courage. "It belongs to Gabriel. Always has." "Then perhaps you no longer belong here," he growled. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Queen Lily stood from her place beside the throne. Her hands clenched tightly together. "Aether," she said sharply, "this is your daughter." But her words did little to calm the storm now brewing in her husband's eyes. "She is no daughter of mine if she aligns with the sea devils," he spat, pointing toward the crashing windows. "The very creatures that mocked this kingdom mocked me." Scarlette's breath caught. "This isn't about me. This is about Queen Rayleigh, isn't it?" That stopped him. "You were in love with her once," she continued. "She turned you down, and you've hated them ever since." The king's silence confirmed everything. Lily stepped between her daughter and husband. "You have allowed a personal wound to fester into a kingdom-wide vendetta, Aether. You've risked the future out of revenge. And what would you know of loyalty?" Aether barked. "You who coddled our daughter into believing fairy tales." Scarlette held her ground. "If love is a fairy tale, then let me be the fool who lives in it." Aether's voice dropped to a chilling tone. You will be confined to the highest tower until your senses return. If you continue this delusion, I will have the sea cursed and salted so no merman ever swims near Red Sun again. You can chain my body, father, Scarlette whispered, but never my heart. 2 guards stepped forward at his command, gripping her arms gently but firmly. Karth tried to intervene, but Aether raised a hand. One more word from you and you'll join her. The prince froze, torn between his love for his sister and the shadow of the crown he one day wanted. As Scarlette was escorted out, Lily's gaze met Karth's. Not yet, it seemed to say. Time will come. That night, word spread across the coral rose currents. Prince Gabriel was alone in his coral chamber when Princess Aqua rushed in, her face pale with urgency. Scarlette has been taken. What? Her father knows. She's imprisoned. She might not be safe, Gabriel. The room spun. The seashell walls blurred. His breath grew shallow as fear gripped his chest. Then I'll go to her, he said, grabbing his silver trident. Gabriel, wait. I've waited long enough. Beneath the moonlight, a storm began to gather on the coast of Red Sun. But this time it wasn't in the sky. It was in their hearts. The tower Scarlette was locked in overlooked the very sea that had given her heart its freedom. From its single arched window, she could see the place where she had first met Gabriel. Waves rolled endlessly, whispering his name through the wind. Her wrists bore the thin indentations of the velvet ropes meant to hold her. But her spirit, like the tide, was unbound. Karth visited her in secret that night, slipping past sleepy guards and up the spiral stairs with a stolen key in hand. His young face was pale with guilt and fire. I can't take this anymore, he whispered, unlocking the iron-bound door. You don't belong in a cage. Not for love. Scarlette turned to him, stunned. You'd risk everything. I should have spoken sooner, he said, looking down. I kept your secret for years, and now Father's wrath is growing into something worse than I imagined. He's preparing to sever all coastal trade and begin purging Red Sun's port of any merfolk sympathizers. Scarlette gasped. He's planning war. Karth nodded. You need to leave now. Gabriel will be waiting. How do you know? Because I sent him a message by falcon this morning. A heartbeat of silence. Then she rushed into her brother's arms. I'll never forget this, she said through tears. I don't need you to, Karth whispered. Just be free. Meanwhile, far beneath the surface, Gabriel stood at the border reef of Red Sun's coastline, silver trident in hand, scales glistening with worry. Lightning shimmered far above the water, casting streaks of light down the column of the sea. He had received Karth's message, but it had been hours. His heart pounded with dread. Then a movement. A shadow on the cliffside. A flutter of scarlet fabric. His heart leapt. Scarlette raced down the cliffs barefoot, her long dress torn and soaked. Guards shouted from behind, but she didn't stop. Gabriel surfaced, holding out his arms. She dove. The moment she hit the water, a glow erupted around her body. The ancient spell, the one whispered to her long ago in Coral Rose legends, activated the instant she gave herself to the sea. Light wrapped around her legs like tendrils of magic. Her gown dissolved into sea foam, and from her waist down, silken scarlet scales unfurled. Her bones stretched, shifted, transformed. A gasp escaped her lips as gills bloomed at her ribs, and her human heart found rhythm in ocean tides. Gabriel caught her in his arms. "Scarlette," he whispered, staring in awe. She blinked, adjusting to her new form. "Is it always this loud down here?" He laughed, tears in his eyes. "Only when you're near." But the reunion was short-lived. On the cliff above, torches flared. King Aether stood at the edge, eyes wide in horror and fury. "Scarlette!" She looked up at him, no longer fearful. no longer chained. "This is my choice," she shouted, her voice echoing with the magic of transformation. "And I choose love." The king reached for a bow, an ancient one designed to pierce even merfolk's scales. But just as he drew, Karth stepped forward and struck his wrist with a royal staff. The arrow clattered to the ground. Gasps followed. The guards, once loyal, now hesitated. Queen Lily appeared beside her son, her voice slicing through the noise. "Your reign of vengeance ends now." Below, Scarlette turned to Gabriel, her tail fanning behind her. "Let's go home," she whispered. With one last look, one final goodbye to her brother and mother, Scarlette dove with Gabriel into the deep blue. The ocean embraced her like an old friend. She was no longer just a princess of Red Sun. She was the future queen of Coral Rose. And she was finally free. The castle grounds of Red Sun were unlike any other in the coastal kingdoms. Grand, proud, and seated on cliffs that had defied the waves for centuries. But on this night its mighty halls trembled, not from storm or seaquake, but from truth. The wind howled through stained glass windows, scattering candlelight across the chamber where King Aether sat, alone, clutching the bow that never fired. The court had seen it all. The bow raised at his own daughter, the staff of his son breaking it away, and the queen's voice denouncing him before gods and men. Word had spread like fire in dry forest. Across Red Sun, across the ports, through the streets and into the markets. The king tried to kill his daughter for loving a merman. By dawn, the palace was surrounded, not by soldiers or enemies, but by citizens. Fishermen who relied on the sea. Diplomats who feared war. Mothers who whispered fairy tales of merfolk to their children. And nobles who could no longer ignore the truth. Inside, the royal council convened without Aether's call. Queen Lily, composed and regal, took her place at the head of the long table. Beside her stood Prince Karth, no longer a child lurking in shadows, but a young man with eyes of fire and purpose. In his hands was the ancient scroll of succession, sealed by his mother, seconded by the council. Aether stumbled into the chamber, eyes bloodshot, voice hoarse. "You dare meet without your king?" Lily rose to her full height. "You ceased being our king when you chose vengeance over reason. When you betrayed your daughter. When you betrayed your people." Karth stepped forward. "You taught me to dream of the crown. But I don't want it drenched in blood and shame. I want it earned. And I will earn it." The silence that followed was deafening. Then the Counselor of Laws stood. "By the Articles of Balance and Mercy we, the Court of Red Sun, find King Aether unfit to rule. His crown shall be passed to the heir most suitable." Aether's knees shook. "You would choose him over me? A boy?" Karth's voice was steady. "No. They're choosing the future over the past." The crown, once Aether's symbol of dominion, was removed by his own advisor and placed in a velvet-lined case. Aether was exiled to the northern cliffs, where he would live with his name stripped of power. His legacy forever marked by hatred. And on the next full moon, in a ceremony held before nobles and villagers alike, Karth Bell was crowned High Prince of Red Sun. He knelt before Queen Lily, who placed the ceremonial mini-crown on his head, the same crown once meant for Scarlette. The people cheered not for royalty, but for redemption. "I never expected this," Karth confessed to his mother after the coronation. "I only ever wanted the crown. But now, I want to be worthy of it." "You already are," Lily said, pressing her hand to his chest. "Because you chose love over power. Just like your sister." As the kingdom celebrated a new era, Karth climbed to the highest balcony overlooking the sea. Far in the distance, he saw a flash of Scarlette. Scarlette's tail gliding through the waves beside Gabriel's silver trident. For just a moment they surfaced. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Karth smiled, lifted his crown in salute and whispered, "Thank you." And then they vanished beneath the waves, rulers of a different kingdom, bound by love that changed two worlds. Far beneath the shimmering tides of the Coral Rose Sea, where light filters like liquid diamonds through ancient arches of coral and shell, a kingdom stirred in excitement. Lanternfish lit paths like floating stars, and anemones pulsed with color as the undersea capital, Mirabel's heart, prepared for the union that would bind land and sea. Scarlette stood before a great mirror of polished pearl, surrounded by attendants, half mermaid, half humans of the coastal tribes who had come together to celebrate the impossible. Her wedding veil flowed like mist in the current, laced with threads of gold and woven from enchanted sea silk. Her scarlet hair had been braided with tiny white shells and moon-kissed starweed, a tribute to her new kingdom. She wasn't nervous. Not because it was a royal wedding. Not because she had become the first surface royal to marry into the ocean throne. But because when she closed her eyes, she saw Gabriel. His calm, deep eyes, the way he had looked at her on the shore, on the night he first saved her life, and every moment since. Meanwhile, in the Coral Rose Palace Hall, formed from spiraling white corals and domes that rose like living cathedrals, Gabriel, now crowned with a circlet of tide-forged silver, waited. His heart beat like a war drum, but it was joy, not fear. Above them, a grand procession descended from Red Sun. Queen Lily in royal sea travel robes, Prince Karth, now High Prince, wearing a coral-crusted shoulder cape, and nobles who had crossed the barrier of fear to become allies with the sea. Karth looked around in awe. "All my life, I feared the unknown beneath. Now I see. It was only unfamiliar, not dangerous." Queen Lily smiled. "Your sister taught us that." Then, as 1,000 seashell bells rang, Scarlette entered. Gabriel turned, and the entire sea seemed to hold its breath. She was radiant, glowing not with magic but with certainty. She swam slowly toward him, her eyes never leaving his, and in that moment, there were no guests, no courts, no kingdoms. Only the two of them. The High Priest of Coral Rose, a wise, blind manta who spoke in ancient clicks and hums, began the sacred rite. His words were translated into surface tongue by a court echofish. "Love is the tide that carries ships and hearts alike. Let none divide what the sea itself has joined." As Scarlette and Gabriel held hands, his webbed fingers gently wrapped around hers, streams of magic swirled around them. Their vows were spoken not just with words, but with thoughts, with shared memories, with silent understanding. "I promise to never ask you to change," Scarlette said, her voice soft and sure. "Only to grow beside me. And I promise to protect your heart like the ocean protects its pearls," Gabriel whispered. Their lips met, not shyly, not in ceremony, but with the fullness of everything they had survived. And the sea rejoiced. Bioluminescent fish exploded in color above. Jill sang. Coral pillars shook with joy. And from the surface, a beam of sunlight broke through, warming them both, an eternal bridge between two worlds. The reception was unlike anything either kingdom had seen. Merfolk and humans danced side by side in the reef gardens. Floating crystal spheres carried air for surface guests. Sea dragons coiled gently through underwater arches, weaving displays of magic. And at the center, Scarlette and Gabriel danced in slow spirals, the ocean swirling around them in perfect rhythm. Later that night, alone in their coral suite lit by soft glow plants, Gabriel turned to her. "Still certain," he teased. Scarlette leaned into him, smiling. "Now more than ever." They curled together, hearts beating in tandem, waves lapping softly in the distance. It was more than a wedding. It was a new chapter. A story rewritten. Not just for them, but for every soul that ever believed love could break walls, silence war, and build bridges between worlds.